Spain?
I'm not sure actually. I've been racing in Portimao, but only a kart, so I can actually sadly not tell you how it is in a race car in either Portugal or Spain. But I assume it can get hot there as well, especially in the race car. So luckily the sim racers don't have to sit in the hot box in the sauna of the race car.
I know some sim racers will actually go and get like fans that they can set up next to their rigs and are pointed at them so they can actually get some airflow, because while it doesn't get as stuffy, I'm sure, as a cockpit of a racing car, some sim racers who live in warmer climates do need to make sure not only they stay cool, but some computers have to stay cool as well. Clock strike 0, session instantly is complete, and it's Vince Peters that grabs the pole position here for race 2 in the NGK Esports Cup 2024, as we made our way only about 80 kilometers off of the Spanish coast. Let's run you down through the starting grid, where 28 drivers are locked and loaded here in the top split in their Toyota GR86s. Vince Peters will lead them to the green in the Visceral Esports car up front, with the Nürburgring Esports machine of Daniel Muth alongside. The Apex Racing Team driver Gaio Valero is alongside Alexander Thieber, with Nicholas Nolde and then Mario Velgut, the Impulse Racing pair, behind them. Norbert Leitner and then Matthias Penteler share row 4, with Darwin Romero and then Bergam Alioui on the 5th row of the starting formation. Through the top 10, Michael Havladison and Sergei Maturana on the 6th row of the formation. Juan G. Lin in 13th, Alessio Bender in 14th, with Naza Tadi and Michael Kabich 15th and 16th. John Aylen and then Adam Locke, the split 2 winner, of course, 17th and 18th positions respectively. Sarah Dove and then Artem Makarov 19th and 20th, with Spencer Brown 21st, Simon Shkuko rolling alongside in 22nd, Sophie Erwin and then Nicholas Gladish will be 23rd and 24th, with just 4 more drivers, Jesse Albrecht, Michael Stafferson, and then Francesco Newman and Joshua Jane rounding out the starting formation. A couple of those drivers seemingly not getting representative lap times onto the board. They do have, of course, the full formation lap to work before they get themselves underway, which I often feel in the world of sim racing, Patricia, is the most nervous time. You're just rolling behind the pace car and waiting for the iRacing race control gods to tell you to go racing.
Absolutely. Just sit there uselessly and wait for the car just to go absolutely nuts at the start. It's like such an insane switch. Actually, someone should show a cockpit view from the start, but I think it's very, very stressful for sure.
And the other thing that's stressful, I always say, is having to go, you talked about, 3 hours straight in sim racing compared to a weekend in the real world. But the fact that you go from qualifying to race instantly, that's pretty stressful as well. Vince Peters doesn't look very stressed though as he gets under the way for the formation lap, does he?
They never do. They never do.
He's doing that weird ton thing that all sim racers do though. Looks nice and dark behind him, allows him to keep focus. And of course, alongside the Nürburgring Esports driver of Daniel Muth, still waiting for the formation to catch back up behind them as the drivers roll away. As mentioned, warm temperature. Patricia, you were saying about lap 5 maybe for when the drivers are going to start feeling the tires and having to manage them a little bit more. So lap 1 and those early couple of laps, I guess that's when we're going to see the most excitement.
Yeah, that's usually the case. I think afterwards you will also see some excitement due to some people dropping back because they do struggle with the tire management. So at the end of the day, as I said, it really depends on how the drivers are gonna handle the tire situation. And I must say, actually, I'm really jealous right now. I would love to participate in this race. Like, actually, I would love to sit in the simulator right now.
I'm just saying,
I think it's gonna be really cool.
We have had commentators also drive in races. We can set that up for the next round.
I was actually thinking about that. We should talk about it. I would be down.
We'll talk about that after the race. For now, though, 28 drivers. Whoever wins this race will grab 100 euros in the qualifying races, then 50 euros for second place and third, 25 euros. But the winner of the NGK NTK Esports Cup, that's decided on our grand final day at the end of the season, wins a Bavarian SimTech wheel. Second grabbing, of course, Tailored Ring NGK branded as well. And third place getting an AlphaTech Racing LED screen position set. Plenty more goodie bags to come as well, but the green flag's about to drop. And in sunny Spain, we're ready for round 2 of NGK NTK Esports Cup action. We ignite the race. We send them too wide into the opening corner with Gaio Valero having a look behind. Alexander Thieber goes around and sets off the concertina. across, stranded in the middle of the pack, but out of turn one. It's only two that have gone around as they work their way now through the double left-hander. Vince Peters followed by Guy Valero and Nicholas Nolder. It's now single file instantly though, Patricia, within the rest of the cars in the top 20.
Oh yeah, so I think we lost like we lost like 3 out of the top 7 just at the start, so that was to be expected. But we saw it already, not even with like used tires. It's just so hard to manage the car not breaking out.
It was an aggressive start from Guy Valero. He got 2 positions instantly until Vince Peters covered him off into that opening corner. Now has to watch as Nicholas Nolder has a look to the left-hand side. Valero will try and slam the door shut. Nolder on the brakes a little bit extra aggressive just to avoid running into the quarter panel of the 27, and now allow Daniel Muth the chance to squeeze back underneath. They'll feed themselves into the draft, come to the end of the opening lap with Peters leading from Valero, Nolder, Muth, Leitner and Romero. But now they play a bit of IndyCar, snaking back and forth trying to avoid the draft, settle into the rhythm now and maybe wait for the mistakes in front. How do you try to set up mistakes though, Patricia? If you are Daniel Muth now, who's dropped from 2nd to 4th, how do you force the cars in front to start to feel the pressure?
Well, actually very similarly as to how he's already doing it. So show yourself in the mirrors. You see him waving to the left and right, not following directly behind the car in front, just to show the others, like, you know, the other driver, oh, I'm here, beware. And then also kind of, as you see him, try to take the slipstream out of the corners to kind of have the effect of the slipstream over the whole straight, so you can actually at some point start attacking at the braking point. So he's doing it all right. Obviously he's still behind and he's still staying attached and waiting for the right opportunity.
Oh, there's the look from up above, and so Alexander Thieber got tagged to the inside, then Matthias Pentela, that's the RD SimSport driver in that pink Toyota GR86, that also got the worst of the action there. But outside of that, Mergem Alui, that was the 33 that we saw stranded. Only Matthias Pentela took the trip back to pit lane and probably will start at the front of race 2 guaranteed. Everyone else is going to work their way back out onto track and try and recover and hope to try and get a better starting spot in the invert for the second 25-minute race. Here's the look at what happened to the 33. He also got tagged. Seems like a couple of drivers able to check up in time, but this goes to show the danger of opening laps and how close the racing can be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think actually the driving is going to be so tight, it's going to be hard to really make up a lot of positions, I think, during this race, because you really have to wait for a mistake from every single driver. And I don't see a massive crash happening because I think everyone's looking to the front now and just trying to push forward and finishing the race. And obviously from the back, drivers like Aliu, I'm very curious to see how far to the front he can come.
Given that we have this draft pack that is seemingly starting to build, although that might have been a slowdown penalty for Daniel Muth, that's going to be frustrating for him for sure. Tucks in behind the number 81 machine, in front of the 21 as well, so 7th spot for the orange car. But it shows those track limits aren't just about avoiding the eyes of race control in qualifying. If you go beyond them in the race, iRacing will tell you to slow down a fixed amount, and Muth goes from 4th to 7th as Guy Valero takes a look up the inside into the opening corner. Here comes the Apex Racing Team drivers, not going to lean on Vince Peters, gives him plenty of room, and now the Impulse Racing car of Nicholas Nolder hangs back just a little bit. Valero back into line. There's a reason why these drivers aren't pushing the issue too much right now, Patricia. They recognize that if they fight side by side too much, they'll allow those at the back to start to close up and put the pressure on.
Definitely. Very nice racing, very fair and very smart, as you said, because not only do the drivers in the back also catch up, but also you use up your tires even more, and you don't want to risk a crash that early into the race. Whether you're P1 or P2, you want to leave that fight to the end of the race.
Now, these drivers won't be thinking about the reverse grid, but given that we are starting to see, you can see at the back of the shot, a split between 10th and 11th position, how many drivers will be thinking about that? 3 wide at the front. Nolder sent it on Valero, who sent it on Peters in return. It will be side by side on corner exit. Valero takes the lead as the Impulse Racing number 18 car slips back into 2nd spot. Heads up driving there from Peters to tuck back into line and say, you know what, not worth crashing. But it turns out you can pass, Patricia. It just takes some confidence.
That was very, very amazing, but also impressive from Peters to see how aware he is of the situation in the back of him, that he didn't turn into the corner and just let them pass completely. And even now is fighting back immediately. I think we can look onto that guy further.
Yeah, here's the look on board with Peters, who is, I've got to say, not looking very calm anymore. There is a bit more stress starting to build in there. Even may have made his bed behind us, by the way, so congratulations, Vince. Not many sim racers go to that effort. Now, this is where, by the way, certain configurations of Aragon would blast down that back straightaway. We take the short chicane sort of a section that sees us jink left and then back gradually to the right. Smoke in the background, and it's Daniel Muth that's gone around. Oh, it's not gone great for the Nürburgring Esports machine.
Oh yeah, started P2 and is already down to, I think, end of the pack. Yeah, that's tough. But I think, as we saw before with the slowdown penalties, well, definitely, he was early on the race, but we will see a lot of them coming, I think. I definitely assume that you have to collect a couple of warnings and then you get them. So most of the drivers probably got the warnings on the first lap, and now it's just 1 or 2 mistakes and you get a slowdown penalty. And obviously we saw he lost, I think, like 5, 6, 7 positions. To the end of the race, it won't be that much, but still a lot of positions you lose with a slowdown penalty here.
Can see that there's action everywhere in the field. They're 3 wide, slightly further behind in the shot. They're fighting for 7th and 8th positions as they swap around on the timing tower. But this is Adam Locke, Makarov, as well as Sarah Dove, that are going to make door-to-door contact, and the car in the middle almost got squeezed out and lost out, but Adam Locke held on to it, and the split 2 winner from a couple of weeks ago holds on to the spot as well, as the 2 green machines of Makarov and Dove dueling out side by side, now finding themselves 4.2 seconds behind the machines up front. This is what happened to Daniel Muth as they came off of the shortcut. That little right-hander just got a little bit tagged, and now more drama as that's Havlidison that's gone around. I've got to say, a bit more chaos as another car is off in the grass as well, Patricia.
Yeah, but I thought at the beginning when I was looking at the live stream, I thought that most of the guys just lost the cars. But they're actually going harsh on each other. Like, that is just, that was a big tap.
They're being brutal right now, that is for sure. Maturana, Romero, Velgut, this is 4th on back. They've allowed the 3 at the front to break away, as we'll go 3 wide, not even for a podium spot. Sitting behind is Wanji Lin as well. Can see John Aylen in the door. Academy Blue, Toyota GR86. He'll be loving the sight in front of him. We won't go 4 wide this time, but this is a guarantee. We'll see it at some point today. Big send from Romero, paying absolutely no concern to track limit. A suggestion there more than anything, as they fight slightly further behind. I don't know how many times you'll be allowed to get away with track limits like that one, Patricia.
Yeah, especially that one is very, very tempting, because obviously you have the cars behind you. That is one of the few overtaking spots you have on this track, which are just waiting on you to overtake you. So you want to send it into the corner, but then obviously you have to think further, because you will also like have the track limits at the exit of the corner as well, instead of spinning. So it's either that or you spin. So yeah, that's a bit of a dilemma for them on this corner.
Can we get more top-level esports championships in these machines? They're putting on great racing. I think the 3 now at the front, with 17 minutes to go in the first of 2 races, probably won't fight too hard. Here's a look from up above as they work their way through, I believe, to the end of the lap. There are your leaders, of course, Gal Valero, Nicholas Nolde, and Vince Peters. In towards turn 1, a look, half look to the inside, and that's what you were talking about, Patricia, showing yourself in the mirrors to the car in front.
Yeah, they keep doing that, but I think I assume that at this point they know someone's behind them, so they're bewaring anyway. But I hope that they're going to stay calm until the end of the race, because seeing the top 3 crashing each other out like they do in the mid of the field, it would be kind of a pity, no?
Remember, it's about 17x in terms of the incident limit, but when you push the limits at turn 1, that slowdown all maybe comes into play, looking rearwards off your race leader momentarily as they flick left and right again. Just the weight transfer of the car. See how early they're trying to get back onto the power and roll the momentum as we jump on board to Vince Peters. He'll be sitting there and thinking, I'm the championship leader right now. The last thing that I can do is allow anyone to take me out of contention. And yeah, I think Connery at the end of last round was talking about driver of the day going potentially to Gal Valero. Driver of the day doesn't necessarily always have to mean, Patricia, though, a driver that's done some great racing. Sometimes it's just the driver that's done the smartest thing, as Vince Peters maybe did into the hairpin that one time.
Absolutely. That's what I was saying before. I think Vince Peters definitely did the absolutely right thing, because it's better to be P3 and maybe, you know, collect points in both races than fall out in this race and then even struggle to, or be in the front in the second race, whatever. But falling out is never better than losing 1 or 2 positions. So he did the absolutely right thing.
So these drivers fight the front now, recognize that they'll have to fight from the back in the next race. Matthias Penteler, as mentioned, the only driver that sits in pit lane, seemingly having retired. Even Alexander Thieber still trying to do something. He's down in 21st as it runs right now. Might have some traffic at the front as well to contend with. That's a Poshua Jane that they're going to close on in the 511. So see if that is going to be a bit of a factor. The draft is such that I don't think Guy Valero is going to be able to break away, but this is the largest margin that he's had, as, oh, it's really not been easy for Haflidason. He's had another half little spin.
Yeah, we talked about this before. Now on the fresh tires, they can go aggressive and push the throttle and, you know, push the car and other drivers. But I give them 2 more laps until we see them starting to spin a little bit more. But I really have to tell you guys, for those who don't have a simulator at home, regardless of you should definitely get one. But then also, you cannot imagine how hard it is to keep that car on track when the tires are gone, because it's so slippery and it's so hard to manage the breakouts. And definitely, as we said, you have a given setup, so you don't really have the opportunity to give you a lot more forced feedback. So you have to work with what you got, and it's really, really hard to keep this car on the track, and it's getting harder by the lap.
And from your experience, both in the sim and in the real world, as they go side by side for 12th and 13th position, the Geeks Energy Sim Racing 32 back behind the 45 for now. How smooth do you want to be with this car? Because it's a momentum-based car, of course, you're trying to be on power as much as possible, but how much can you saw at the wheel versus how much are you trying just to stay out of trouble?
I do think it depends a lot on the track. So on this tighter track like here, I do think you have to use the momentum and try to be smooth. But not the track, I meant corner, sorry. But then on a corner like hairpin, you really have to brake in, turn the car harshly, catch it at the right moment, and go full throttle. You know what I mean? So if it's like a very tight corner, you'd rather like just spin the car around, so use the drift to your advantage, but then again, obviously you have to catch it at the right moment, and also catch the right moment of going full throttle. But then in those infield chicane situations, you have to use the momentum and not bring the car into a drift, because it will be very hard to catch it back for the next corner.
Right on board with Alexander Thieber, who's probably not too worried about being smooth right now. He's just thinking, let me get as far forward as I feasibly can in this race. Thieber currently teamless as well, of course, former driver for Aragon Esports, who shuttered their doors on the 31st of December 2023 after many years of success since leapfrogging onto the scene in 2020. And so while a handful of their other drivers have already found homes ahead of tomorrow's iRacing Daytona 24, Alexander Thieber still works by at least himself for the time being, and will be interesting to see where he ends up. In front of him, he's got a couple of drivers still to work past. Sophie Arawin and then Simon Shakugo will be the next 2 drivers, and then you see the next train that runs in front. Realistically, Alexander Thieber could still get as high as 15th position in this race, Patricia, which would be good for the point, but also leave him smack in the middle of the field for our race 2 start.
It's not the one nor the other, is it? It's in this case, it's the only case where I would agree you should debate whether you want to take those points or fall back to last for a good position in the second race. Because you do get good points on P15, but you are lost in the middle, like you said, for later on. And I think, considering the crashes that happened in the first lap, I think you're probably at the worst place you want to be, in the middle of the pack.
And we saw just how much they were checking up and concertinaing up. Those that were at the front, with the exception of the moment into turn 1 that saw Thieber and Penteler get tangled up, most of those drivers up front were able to stay out of trouble and stay out of harm's way. And so that's be something that they'll be thinking about for sure. Now, something else to consider is Patricia mentioned that this is fast paced. And so if you don't already have your drink, don't go anywhere, because once this race is complete, the drivers instantly get gridded up in that full invert for the next race. And so That's a little bit stressful. Wan Lin has said, you know what? I don't need to be so stressed. He's strapped into his rig, Patricia. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, but I wonder why though. Like, what kind of movement is he trying to contain? His own?
I was gonna say, it doesn't look like he's got actual motion. It's just maybe the fact that he's moving around himself.
Maybe it's just for the feeling, you know. Maybe he can focus better. I would get that actually, because I do focus better as well with the straps on. It does make sense actually.
I mean, you can see when you are on these pedals in the sim, you know, you're using similar amount of forces, and so you have to be slightly strapped in there. I've got to say, yeah, I'm liking the look of this, and I hope that we're all getting ideas. He's also seemingly using a formula wheel, but taking his hand off to shift manually. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are adding up to a very cool setup. Send us pictures, by the way, of your rigs on social media. Would be cool to check all of that out. Oh, they're 4 wide into turn 2. They come out on the other side just okay. And this is the fight for, well, around 13th position. Makarov in front of Havlidison with Locke and K-Back in the line behind them as well. When you go that many cars into a corner packed sideways, it usually doesn't work out. Somehow they got it figured out.
Yeah, I'm really impressed on how well they are seeing their surroundings, because my biggest struggle actually from real racing to sim racing, and honestly that's the biggest struggle, is not having mirrors. I don't understand how I can drive a race without seeing the other drivers. I think most of the sim racers actually switch back to see the scene from behind, but at that moment you cannot look to the front, which takes my focus away, so I struggle with that. And then I know some drivers have the rear mirror like in the middle of the screen on top. But yeah, I think that's quite the challenge, at least to me.
Yeah, the virtual mirror helps, of course. Being triple monitors helps as well. Some drivers are now increasingly in virtual reality. But I think one thing that a lot of these people sometimes forget in VR is, I can tell you that I think Michael Havlidison has hit the incident limit and been disqualified. So that's one driver that will drop to the very back of the field. But the one thing that I found when I went and did a race, Patricia, was that when you have the Hans device on, you're strapped into your seat, you don't actually get that much of an opportunity to turn your head either way. And so whatever visibility you do have in your mirror, you're relying on it a lot more than you are in the sim, where you also do have a spotter that can tell you 2 or 3 wide, you're clear, and all of those helpful details too.
That is true for sure, but I think you have a whole different feeling of your surroundings in a real race car, because I don't know, I feel like you're more conscious of what's happening around you. You have the sound that does have an effect, and then also I don't know, you see the mirrors at least constantly, whether you see a lot in them, but you see them constantly. And in this simulator, you have to switch back and forth. And in that time, a lot of things can happen, you know. You don't know, was I 3/10 slower than the driver behind and he's already at my back, or is he still at the same pace he was, you know, 2 corners ago? So that's sometimes surprising, because you look in the rear mirror in the simulator, it's like, oh, he's already here, fuck. What am I gonna do now?
That's a really good point, actually. You know, that those are some of those things that you don't really necessarily think about. And I feel like in sim racing, you get so used to, especially data being thrown at you. You can see lap times, for example, of all the people around you in the field, and deltas. For example, when I used to race, I used to have 3 lap deltas to the cars 10 positions in front of me and behind me, so I knew when I was being slow. There's so much that you get used to having, and maybe that's why they're so calm behind the wheels of these virtual race cars. Now, if you're up at the front of the field, though, we've got, 6 minutes left to go. Continue to ride on board with John Aylen. How calm would you be feeling if you're Guile Valero, Nicholas Nolde, or Vince Peters, Patricia, knowing that you don't have many drivers behind, you can afford to start fighting now a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was saying before. I think the last 5 minutes, you wouldn't want to risk the good position you have and the points you collected already. You wouldn't want to risk that position, especially since they drove out a little bit of a gap now, so it's quite secure. But still, if they want to send it for P1, P2, they're going to do it in the last 1, 2, 3 laps, because then they don't have the time for a comeback, you know, for the other drivers.
So here we go with now almost 5 minutes left to go, side by side, with a little bit of damage on some of these Toyota GR86s, but for the most part, they have weathered the chaos relatively well. Kaibak's going to hold that 14th spot as he tries to put the pressure onto Makarov as they work their way now in towards that second corner. A couple of cars dipping tires into gravel. That's not the good way to go, especially on iRacing now with the updates to the gravel and grass model that really do suck the car in and slow you down in a much more realistic and ultimately frustrating way. Nicholas Nolder's within 2/10 at the front of the field though, and so we're getting to that point where surely it's going to be go time as we come back towards the line, and here we go side by side as well. It's going to be a challenge for the lead. Vince Peters going to slip up the inside of Valero's Apex Racing team number 27. Kyle Valero was passed almost in slow motion there.
I'm quite sure he got a slowdown penalty as well. That's what it looked like, because he went to the side for a quick second, and I think he got a slowdown as well.
I'm glad I'm not out there, because I can say that slowdowns used to find me on track, so this sort of a layout would be quite frustrating for me.
Oh, it definitely is very frustrating. It's for sure also for Valero. But it's an interesting topic that you started talking about, the tires, the new program that they have, or the software for the tires. We introduced it, I think, last race, so a month ago. It's quite fresh and new, and the guys obviously had the time to get to know it until now. But still, it's a whole new experience to how they used to race before in iRacing.
Yeah, and that's where, much like in the real world where tires are continuously being changed every year in terms of compounds, in the sim world we're continuously evolving the tire models that are used, and therefore how drivers need to adapt and find speed. Ultimately, that is the challenge for the drivers, adapting to the tires in the real world, the 4 contact points that they really have with the ground, and then here in the sim, the 4 contact points that really feed you some of the feedback that you derive as well. They set up quite wide into turn 1 as they're almost 3 wide into the hairpin. This for 13th position. Makarov has the inside, way overshoots it, but still as they're 3 wide on corner exit. Sarah Dove on the outside. Michael Kaibak's now the one that gets the disqualification limit hit. He's instantly pulled from the session. Race control does not wait around. Looking rearwards though from Adam Locke as Sarah Dove, I think, is going to now get caught out with no draft on that inside line. It's not a heavy braking zone into turn 1. If you're on that outside line, you can commit just that little bit more. And Sarah Dove loses out to Adam Locke momentarily. But Patricia, now 2 drivers have found themselves on the wrong side of the incident limit.
Frustrating, especially at the end of the race. Imagine racing your heart out for 20 minutes and picked up because of track limits. I mean, obviously you have to, because they did gain a lot of advantages due to the track limits. So this is also quite fair on a simulator, because you have no chance of escaping the track limits. As if in real racing, obviously you can get lucky and you can have a bad day. But yeah, still it's frustrating, of course. And sometimes it's not even necessarily your fault, but maybe the rest of the times were, and then you still get kicked.
I'm just saying that if in the real world they had track limits like they do in sim racing, there would be a lot less arguments, I think, about track limits overall. Let's check back in, though, up towards the front, because we should now have 2 laps left to go, because Nicholas Nolder leads from Vince Peters and Kyle Valero behind us. Through the left we go once more, bring it back around and down towards the back straightaway. Now with Kyle Valero sitting in 3rd, how aggressive is he going to get to be with the draft? Because we have this little chicane section that's coming up here, it means you don't get a great run into the back straightaway. Vince Peters doesn't wait, side by side as they run off the right-hander, and now Valero with nowhere to go. He gives a bumper to the back of the 19 as Vince Peters retakes the point for the first time since we went 3 wide into the hairpin. It's 3 wide once again, penultimate lap of the race. Who's going to be bravest of them all? Peters this time is able to control that inside apex. He parks it on the exit and now holds Nicholas Nolder behind. Valero's caught out now with no draft. He'll try to play some side drafting games. 1 more lap to go, but Patricia, they're all brawling for it, that's for sure.
It's absolutely amazing. It's insane what they're doing right now. I don't even know what to say because I'm busy watching, but it's absolutely crazy. Like that's what I told you. They're waiting for the last lap, and now they're going full send, but still be wearing off the track limits. Obviously, trying to stay on track, but not always they can. Obviously.
And hopefully, if they are running wide, they banked a couple of incident points to use at the end. Vince Peters is going to have the lead in towards the run onto the back straightaway. Will that be where he needs to be, or will Nicholas Nolder and Kyle Valero be so focused on the squabble with one another that they're not even going to put the pressure onto the Visceral Esports driver? see the pink machine of Valero just a couple of car lengths too far behind. Big cut of the inside curb as they work through the left before cutting it back to the right. But with half a second splitting them, the white flag officially out, the final lap of this race. Vince Peters is going to jink to the inside, try and cut the draft, cut the line of the two behind. Full invert to come after this. These three have put on a show at the front. Gaio Valero has to cover off the move from Nicholas Nolde, and it's going to be status quo on corner exit. Vince Peters, Gaio Valero, and Nicholas Nolde will come to the line for race 1 at Aragon in the NGK Esports Cup. It's the Visceral Esports driver, the championship leader, that will come out on top. But now we'll have it all to do from the back of the field. Yeah, doesn't seem like he's even won, Patricia. Calm as you'd like.
Amazing, amazing how he kept calm. You could see he was angry after the incident at the start where he had to give up 2 positions due to the others going full send into the hairpin. And he kept it calm during the whole race, managed the tires, and still won in the end. So big applause from us to Peters.
And that, again, the recognition that he had to give space when Nolde and Valero dived into the hairpin about, what, 10 minutes into the race. That may go down as the move of the race, but not in the way that traditionally we'd be talking about it.
Absolutely. So biggest respect to him, but also obviously to the other guys. The top 3 really performed here. It was amazing to watch. I think they did amazing. How they managed the car, how they raced, the strategy, how they kept calm, just great. But also we saw some intense racing in the midfield, just like last time. So I expected nothing else. I think this is one of the best series in sim racing ever made, actually, because it never gets boring. Am I right?
I mean, you're going to have to try and... Connery's going to have to try and remove me from the commentary booth at the end of this one. I think that's for sure. Vince Peters along with Gaio Valero. 6/10 splits them. I think at the end, it really shows that it could have been a lot closer. Could we get a photo finish in the second one? Valero, Nolde, Velgut, Maturano, Romero, Muth, Lin, Leitner, and Bender through the top 10. And again, they're already gridded up for that second race. So we'll blow through this and then talk through that starting grid for the full invert second race. John Aylen and then Nazatati, 11th and 12th, with Adam Locke, again, split 2 winner up in 13th. He'll be very much happy about the points that he's been continuing to rack up. Artem Makarov and then Sarah Dove, Sherman Shizuko, and Sophie Erwin, Alexander Thieber, Mergim, Alui, and then Francesco Newman through the top 20 with just 2 more cars scored on the lead lap. Jesse Albrecht and Nicholas Gladish, and then Michael Kabak 3 laps down after being racked with the disqualification limit. Poshua Jane 24th, Michael Haflidison, Michael Gustafsson, and then Spencer Brown, Matthias Penteler at the very back of that. And of course, well, that's how they finish. Flip it around, that's how they start. Penteler, Brown, front row with Gustafsson and Haflidison on the second row, and then Jane and Kaibak 5th and 6th positions respectively. Gladish and Albrecht 7th and 8th, with Newman and Alui rounding out your top 10. Alexander Thieber's got a really good spot to start from inside of row 6 alongside Sophie Erwin in that United Sim Team 714. Shiman Shizuko and then Sarah Dove along with Artem Makarov and Adam Locke, Nazatati and John Aylen through the top 18, and bookending the top 20 it's Alessio Bender and Norbert Leitner. These were some of the drivers really in the brawls in the first race. Wanji Lin, that 5-star motorsports entry alongside Daniel Muth, who will be hoping that things go a little bit more according to the plan. Darwin Romero, Sergi Maturana, 23rd and 24th, with Mario Velgut, and then the podium sitters, those that ran away at the front, Nicholas Nolde, Gaio Valero, and Vince Peters through the 28 cars that roll once again. They've already dispatched of half of that formation lap, and this is where, Patricia, you were saying, it's frantic, it's frenetic for these drivers. They don't get a chance to rest.
This is just crazy to me. This is just absolutely crazy to me. They overperformed for 25 minutes, didn't even catch a breath, and are back to starting from P last and even having to send it, I think, probably even more than before. So I'm very curious about her amazing top 3 starting literally last right now, and just I'm like, the first lap's gonna be crazy. I'm holding myself to my seat right now.
I can tell you that Vince Peters jumped into the series Discord and said after that first race, awesome race, now it's time to die in the reverse grid. So that tells you, Patricia, where he's thinking right now.
I'm not sure. I think that's maybe just a scheme, you know. He's trying to let the others know, oh yeah, I'm so scared, I'm so worried, and then he's just gonna come through. Choo-choo train.
Well, here we go. Choo-choo. Green flag back out for race 2 of the NGK NTK Esports Cup. Who will pass or who will throw down the gauntlet that you shall not pass? Into turn 1, Matthias Pentel in the RD SimSport machine is going to try and fly away. We're almost 4 wide behind as we filter off of turn 1, almost 5 wide for a moment, I'm pretty sure. Alexander Thebus somewhere in that madness in his green machine, on board with that number 2, out of the second of the left-handers as he has a look to the inside of Jesse Albrecht. Pentel is now 1.5 seconds clear. He is gone, he has flown away. Spencer Brown gangbusters up the inside of Avlidison and Michael Kaibak. This is crazy behind Pentela, who is being gifted, Patricia, a chance to build his lead. Not even 1 lap complete.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I think this lap we need to focus on what's going to happen because there's going to be so many sends.
Looking back from Haflidason, he sees Kaibak around the outside. That's not the place to be, and Miriam Aloui in the 33 is going to be able to hold on to 4th position. Alexander Thebus now up into 6th and already 5 seconds off of your race leader. Somewhere in this pack, Daniel Muth, maybe Nicholas Nolder, they're somewhere, but now the chaos, oh goodness, at least 6 cars with definite contact. That's Gaio Valero, I'm pretty sure. It's exiting stage right in the Apex Racing team car and trying to rejoin the track. Nicholas Nolder involved in that one as well, I'm pretty sure. Vince Peters, the one that was able to scramble through. Francesco Newman is 4 wide as we head up in towards turn 3. I mean, come on, we knew it was going to be crazy. It's synchronized spinning right now.
Absolutely insane. I don't even know what to say. What a pity for Valero and Nolde because they just got caught up in it, I think. I'm not sure if they were really involved in the crash. They just ran into it. Oh, that was a nice tap right in the front.
It's still going on. Francesco Newman just got the slightest of bumper-to-bumper contact as now more movement as Vince Peters gives a big move, and that's a confident move. On Nicholas Gladys just chops the nose off through the second part of the chicane as well. Well, it's been a crazy start and settle in because now drivers who have been able to stay out of trouble, trying to remain on track. Haflidason almost rejoins into the path of Michael Kaibak. Well, they tell you to rejoin safely. The benefit you have in iRacing is the F3 relative box. That's not much use there when you spear your way back onto the tarmac, but fortunately, all these drivers survive as the lights flash and maybe some mental warfare being played as well.
How obvious was it? That's literally what I just said with the choo-choo train. We're in lap 3 now, and we have Vince Peters in the top 10. So he started absolutely dead last, so that's the choo-choo train I was talking about. Let's see how far he's gonna come in the next 2 more laps.
He's already 13 seconds off of the leader. I mean, it's not actually that far off the realm of possibility that if Matthias Pentel does lose some time, that, well, at least Alexander Theba may be able to close. He's on the inside now of the Geeks Energy sim racing machine, gets past Michael Kaibak, and you could see was allowed to take the apex for the second part of the corner, which gives him now the chance, I think, to try and get through on Michael Haflidason, maybe not on Spencer Brown or Miriam Alawai. The problem is these drivers fighting. It's great to watch, but now almost 4 seconds off of the RD SimSport driver that leads Theba the long way around, and oh, look how confident he is under the brakes that he can send it as well. Spencer Brown gonna lose out, but now Haflidason gonna feed the draft to Alexander Theba as the German works back towards the line, and once again, he looks pretty calm given how much he's having to dice through the field, Patricia.
Absolutely, that was a great overtake on the outside. I think staying calm is key right now. And he's doing it well. He just made 2 positions, and he's quite quick. So yeah, he definitely has the potential to go further onto the podium. He is on the podium now. And he can go even further, but I think Peters doesn't necessarily have the opportunity for P1, but up to P2, it's not 13 seconds, it's just 9, and that's quite realistic over 20 minutes of race time that we have left.
Especially if they're going to fight like this. You have Michael Kaibak alongside Spencer Brown is down the hill. Brown on the inside should have the advantage, especially because inside now for the next braking zone that comes up very, very quickly. Kaibak went deep, ran himself just a little bit too deep, though all things considered, and found himself with no choice but to tuck back into the line. So we've already burned through about 5 minutes of this race. It feels like we packed in an awful lot of racing. Still in a bit of deja vu chaos about what happened at the end of that opening lap with the amount of crashing that we did have, but it does seem as though Nicholas Nolde, Norbert Leitner, Nazatadi, Joshua Payne, and Sergi Maturana are done for the day, sitting in pit lane, DNF'd. And here's a look at, well, I think where it's going to start. The problem is there are so many different things that probably happened that this is just one little chain reaction along the way.
Oh, we see a replay right now of the crash before. Oh yeah, it started like 2 corners before, and just like auto scooter, they just started hitting into each other, and everyone trying to save their car and just going left, right, and everyone at the end was just like bowling.
I mean, so we've managed to pack choo-choo trains, 10-pin bowling in. I threw in an Lord of the Rings reference as well. We've managed to, this is proper commentary that you get here on the NGK,
I would say
NTK Esports.
we can agree on absolute chaos. We can agree on this is absolute chaos. Like, just everything's happening at once.
What do you even do? You ride on board with Sarah Dove and none the wiser as to how all of these contacts are happening, and then you think it's over, but no, boom, there's another bit still left to come. Again, it's a good thing that the damage bill is virtual, Patricia, because none of these drivers now have to go and get their race cars actually fixed.
Well, the bill is maybe virtual, but I think they do have damage on the cars. So if they have a heavy damage, as we see, they have to pit. They have to be pit anyway. So that's not great either.
I think what we need to do, though, is start charging them for their repairs. Maybe it will start to incentivize some cleaner racing. Alexander Theba says, clean racing? Well, if I'm up to second, I have now a chance of seeing some clean air and catching Matthias Pentela 3.5 seconds up the road. They're going to be side by side with Alessio Bender trying to get off Mike Kaiback, who is seemingly a bit of a cork in the bottle for allowing drivers to go up the road and catch. Vince Peters will be onto the back of these drivers sooner rather than later. In fact, he is already there in his number 19 machine and making moves. Is race 1 winner Peters, who gets past John Aylen, and now next target will be Darwin Romero as Spencer Brown has a half spin.
That was another position for Vince.
Grabbed another one too.
I'm not sure. I think he just lost one. Yeah, I think he just got past.
I think he got past Darwin Romero, but 21 positions gained. I mean, I only see those sort of numbers when I'm playing a video game. I turn the AI down to 0 and I start at the very back of the field. Vince Peters can do that in a field like this as well. Out of the final corner, they will come back towards the line. So you're going to watch the time for Matthias Pentela. He did a 1:16.951. Alexander Theba, Patricia, did a 1:16.159. So he was almost 1 full second quicker. I think we'll see a battle for the lead in just a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. He's 2.8 seconds off to pole position to our leader, and it's 17 minutes to go. With that pace, it's definitely possible. I agree with you.
Here's a look on board with third as he tucks behind at number 2 machine. There's not many better people to ride behind than someone like Alexander Theba, to be honest, to see what the lines of a World Championship caliber driver are like. You can actually see that even though there's slightly different approaches to the corners being taken, just because of the way that the draft's going to work, as we head off to the braking zone, the gap will surely shrink back down between these two cars. Already Matthias Pentela has lost another second this lap alone, and so I think maybe there is also just a recognition that the train is coming, and it's going to be about how wide can you make that Toyota GR86. There are some teammates here, Patricia, but being teammates doesn't necessarily mean you're going to work together in a race like this. I feel like it's every driver for themselves.
It's definitely every driver for themselves, and we see I would just wanted to add on what you said about Pentela. It can be either him struggling with knowing there's the train coming through and he's just nervous, but also we cannot stress it enough how the tire management is a key element in this race, because 25 minutes is a long time, and I think he pushed in the beginning so hard that maybe he over pushed it already. So now the other guys who drove smoothly and maybe a little bit slower because they were having traffic, etc., are having a much better tire now, and I'm not sure how the tires actually function in the simulation, but in a real racing world it makes an insane difference on how you treat the tires in the early life stages. So depending on how your driving styles in the first 3 or 4 laps will have a massive effect, and actually exponentially for the rest of the race. So this could be a case here as well.
No, that usually holds true as well. How you know, in the sim, if you treat the tires well at the start, you'll get better runs at the end, and that was 1G Lin that got disqualified as contact with Spencer Brown. Again, the iRacing race control does not discriminate, and it's instant. As soon as you reach the threshold, it yoinks you off the track. There'll be 3 wide into the hairpin. Got Daniel Muth joining the party as behind. Mario Velgut sits and watches as into the braking zone. There's not much you can do when the car turns on the nose of you. Daniel Muth takes avoiding action to try and avoid the half spin of Spencer Brown, who now is going to get into the side of Artem Makarov, who goes around in the 22.
Both of them did a great save, though. I think Daniel Muth is not having a good day today. He's been suffering a lot, even the past race and now as well with the half spin, but he saved it. And that was a great turn back.
It's not been easy for Daniel Muth today. I think he'll be hoping that maybe the next round of the championship will go slightly better for him in a car he is very familiar with. We've burnt through about 11 minutes, 14 or so to go. Alexander Thieber has brought the gap at the front down to about 0.8 of a second, and his bright green number 2 is right in the rearview mirror now of Matthias Penteler. Vince Peters finds himself in 6th position, 10 seconds off of the leader, but only about 2 cars away from 5th position, or well, 1 car away, I should say, from 5th position. After that, probably not going to expect to get too far forward unless these drivers at the front, Patricia, start to fight. And so from that perspective, Vince Peters is probably hoping that Alexander Thieber ends up in a little bit of a fight with Matthias Penteler here as they head off into turn number 1, but already Alexander Thieber with a great run.
I was about to say, I assume that this fight is about to come and will definitely come again in the last laps of the races. That was a quite easy overtake. Yeah, I think he's definitely struggling with the tires because his pace is not going to hold up with Thieber.
Last time by, Matthias Penteler did a 1:17.0 compared to a 1:15.9 for Alexander Thieber. So Thieber, I think, is now going to hope that Penteler holds up those behind. But it's fair to say that 33, the 81, they'd actually done a decent job of staying behind your new race leader. Vince Peters now leads the second peloton that chases down 10 seconds adrift of those front 4 cars. Behind him, Bender, Kaibach, and Romero with that additional grouping then behind of John Aylen, Mario Velgut, Daniel Muth, and then Guy Valera, who's fought his way back forward into 12th position. This is, again, one of those races where even though he's spun around at the end of the opening lap with all of that drama, staying out of trouble later on maybe gives you some positions as Michael Hafliderson slides his way forward to 3rd. I think that's recognition that he thinks that Matthias Penteler might end up losing Alexander Thieber in a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, I think this was not the quite smart thing to do. They should have just stayed attached and, you know, maybe even just follow through and poker on tire management and then make it an easy overtake. Definitely Alex Thieber did a great job here and made it quite structured and simple. There was no big fight involved, so he did it all right.
And I bet you if we took a look on board with him, he would probably still be as calm as ever. And hopefully we'll get a bit more of a reaction and some emotion from him come the checkered flag in 12 minutes time. So probably means about 10 laps or so, given the lap times that we do tend to run, as the 2 orange machines of Hafliderson and Aloui are the 2 that are actually losing ground. Penteler, after the couple of 1:17s, still sits in the draft of your race leader, but going to have to stay as close as possible. Don't forget that as we move on forward into the next couple of rounds of this NGK Esports Cup, that you can qualify for some of those additional splits as well. And Patricia, we had talked about it in the pre-race. Adam Locke had won both of the rounds in split 2, including the reverse grid. He came into this round of the championship 5th overall. There are very valuable points scored in some of those lower splits as well.
Where is he now? Oh, he's quite in the back, but now he's struggling for this race, right?
Yeah, I think he got mixed up in all of that chaos that saw Guy Valero spun off through the camera.
Definitely.
And so for him to be in 20th, maybe not ideal, but yeah, it's one of those things where you talked about it's great that we have the Toyota Cup, so it's a bit of a fixed playing field. But sometimes esports competitions, you know, they get focused on drivers with 10,000 I rating and whatever like that. This at least gives a way for drivers of all capability and all I ratings to make their way on forward. I don't mean this in a bad way. Adam Locke's I rating is 2,000. Alexander Thieber's I rating is 9,300.
And it's not only the I rating, as you mentioned before, it's just also your experience. Some drivers here are world class, and some drivers are just hobby drivers who have, I would guess, not even a sim rig, maybe a steering wheel and some pedals at home, and they're racing here as well. And it's really just, that's, like I said, not only the fun of the cup, but also the structure of how NGK, NTK decided to make this is really, really cool. And that's why we're having so much fun watching it, because it just stays interesting.
And yes, by the way, to answer a question I saw in one of our chats, there are race control decisions that might end up changing the results of some of these encounters that we've been seeing. So just keep that in mind, and you can always stay up to date on social media as to the latest news in and amongst the series. Within 10 minutes to go, though, here on the coast of Spain. There's Adam Locke, and oh, if that's a commentator's curse, don't blame us. It was not us. Adam Locke just has a little half lazy spin, but fortunately able to spin it around and get back on track. That's the weight transfer, Patricia, we were talking about slightly earlier.
We can see the weight transfer visually, and I thought it was an amazing shot on how the three of them went into the hairpin, but like diagonally, and everyone, you could see the cars like going down in the front like heavily all at once. That looked amazing. So yeah, like weight transfer on this car is just an immense topic, and that's also why it keeps breaking out so much, because the weight on those tires and also tire management. Obviously, it's always all connected. Tire management, the weight transfer, the breaking out of the car, it's all connected. So that's why you really have to get a feeling for this specific car. It's quite unique, actually, to drive.
Stalled out just a little bit in terms of the racing right now. But, you know, this car that in some ways has replaced the Mazda MX-5 in iRacing as one of the lower ranked cars that takes center stage. It still puts on very similar sort of racing, and it is a lot of fun to say the very least. The question has always been for drivers who have less experience, how quickly do they get to grips with some of the nuances. Pentala has to go slightly defensive because Michael Hafliderson took a look to the inside in the bright orange number 81, but didn't get the chance to try and fight his way on forward. And now Alexander Thieber will try and take that opportunity, 1 second clear, to try and break the draft. It's not going to be done this time, but he needs to extend the margin to closer to about 1.5 seconds to be able to do so. Vince Peters is also trying to break the draft to those behind him, Patricia. He's up to that 5th position, about as high as he's realistically going to get. And now with Alessio Bender, Darwin Romero, a couple of other drivers sitting in behind, all he's trying to do is be consistent lap after lap after lap.
I think I can start talking about who the driver of the day is going to be. So everyone watching, please make your votes, because I think Peters is definitely quite far in the front, even if it's not a second win, but his performance has been just so stable. So we're having a Formula One situation. Are we going for the stable driver, or are we going for the most highlighted driver?
Spencer Brown, I think, has been the next driver to unfortunately hit the disqualification limit. You can make an argument for sure for Vince Peters. Alexander Thieber's recovery in this race has been quite good as well, so maybe you give him a bit of a shout out. I don't know. There's so many different ways that I often look at driver of the day. The only good thing is that because these are short races, the only driver that we never have to consider is the safety car driver. We never really have to see him. Because you laugh, Patricia, I've done sim races before where the driver of the day on social media was voted as the pace car driver.
Oh, wow. I've never seen that before. You'll have to send me some YouTube links on that. I need to see that.
We don't want to relive those races. Less cautions equals more betterer is traditionally the way that racing goes. Pentala 1.1 seconds behind, and now as we jump on board with Hafliderson, not a look of concern necessarily, but I think for the first time, as we head into these closing stages, Hafliderson will recognize that he's not battling for the win necessarily if Thieber's able to hold this gap. Patricia, he's just trying to get up to second.
He's trying very hard, but like I said, he has 6 minutes to go. Give him the last 3 laps. Give him the last 3 laps. I think those will be the most important ones. He's just trying to hold on, but the overtaking will happen in the end, because risking it now is not the smart move.
Someone suggests, by the way, in the iRacing Esports network that Guile Valero is their pick for driver of the day. Do let us know who you think has been the most impressive. This is more, again, just a ceremonial thing, not anything official, but we can chat about it on the broadcast. Sarah Dove is on the inside as she tries to get alongside Nicholas Gladish. Not going to be able to do so. And behind, Adam Locke in that bright red machine will slip into the draft, and with 5 minutes to go, try to fight on forward. These drivers find themselves effectively just in a squabble for 13th spot, as maybe a mistake there. Haflidason has dropped behind the 33 car into 4th position there. So that's unusual. We'll see if we can figure out if that was a slowdown, but still trying to get back into the line. We had seen the look on board a lap or so ago. Patricia, I can only assume there's a little bit more stress now for Michael Haflidason in that 81 car.
Yeah, for sure. But honestly, I think right now they've spread out a little bit. Now it's just about staying on track and managing your own pace. So not to slow down too much, not to track, and waiting until the end in order to make up any more positions. Either it's you stay calm and you go for the end, or you start. Oh, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, now to the end of the race, we will see some slowdowns again, I assume, because over the course of the race, obviously they've collected some warnings again.
Yeah, the drivers also now just pushing a little bit more, I guess, than they were at the start. That will definitely be something to keep an eye on. If anyone is close to that disqualification limit, could we add to the 2 drivers that have already been disqualified from this one. So Pentala still within 1 second, but very much now the separation building. Able to break away in the same way like Vince Peters has been able to do. Vince Peters is now 3 seconds clear of those hunting him down. He looks to solidify himself at the front of the championship lead, heading to the conclusion of this race. Haflidason deep under the brakes, barely makes the corner, and now with the number 33, Umurga Malui, trying to now get back alongside, and in the draft, side drafting in towards turn number 1. These 2 drivers separated from those up front. It's 2 cars fighting for 1st and 2nd, 2 cars fighting for 3rd and 4th, Patricia.
Yeah, it's quite tight, but again, I'm not sure. I think he's just making him nervous. Oh, he makes that one. No, I didn't think so.
Still side by side for the time
he did
being.
That one. He went all the way around. That was interesting how he managed to do that.
Was able to hold on to the position, and so that's where maybe if you have some of those incident points in the bank, you can start to use them. On board once again with Michael Haflidason, who's, you can see in front, the gap up to those top 2, Patricia. There's no catching them now.
Oh, there's no catching them now, that's true. Or maybe, who knows, one of them gets kicked out of the race on the last lap due to track limits. Who knows? Or they start fighting in the last 2 laps. I'm definitely not counting that one out yet.
Are you trying to commentators curse these drivers?
Yeah, I did that last time. I think I'm some sort of witch. I think I said the last time. I think I'm some sort of witch. But I said something happened. And also this time I said he's going to come through. He did come through. So now when I say wait for the last 2 laps, guys, wait for the last 2 laps.
I think we're going to get on to those last 2 laps now. 2 minutes on the clock, drivers coming to the line. So fingers crossed we're about to see some excitement. I think Theba's gone. Theba's clear. Vince Peters is in the back of the shot. He might still have a chance to get up to that final step of the podium if these 2 continue to bang doors and argue like they've been doing. But it's been a great return to NGK Esports Cup action to kick off 2024. It's a relatively short turnaround before we go racing once again, so just keep that in mind if you're wanting to get part of the fun. Alexander Thebas leaning in. That's why you want the seatbelts, Patricia, so you don't lean as much through the corners.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. But it's funny how the shot was before, where Vince Peters in his black car just looked like a Black Panther just lingering in the back of those 2 orange cars running away from him. It was a nice shot. It looked hilarious. But how quick does this evening go by? Like, both races had already happened. It was just so much action-packed. And now, just wait.
Here we go.
Maybe my prophecy is coming true.
Well, it does seem as though Mario Velgut's hit the disqualification limit, so there's another one that bites the dust. Michael Haflidason, though, Best that he's going to focus on will be third as we come to the line to see the white flag, blinking plenty, but now with the draft jinking off to the left-hand side, Murgim Aloui is going to force the long way around for Haflidason, who, if he does have an off-track to burn, can not only pinch the 33 into the corner entry, but sweep the momentum the long way around. Bravery may be required, but Haflidason is there. Car alongside, but now on the wrong side of the track, up towards number 3. Not going to be able to be so brave this time around because as they now dive in through the next part of the corner, Murgim Aloui is going to bully Haflidason almost onto the gravel, but now Haflidason says, I'm still here, third is mine.
Yeah, there we go. That was some nice tandem driving, but he did manage to overtake, but just wait for the comeback.
Oh, there was almost contact there with a big look, and the look there is going to mean there's no chance of the draft back up in towards the hairpin for the final time. Leading up front though, Alexander Thieber must have thought after race 1 that surely it could not have been more difficult, and well, he was right. Already with one hand off the wheel, he'll celebrate as winner of race 2 here at Motorland Aragon in the NGK Esports Cup for 2024. Ignites the track and, as calm as you'd like, celebrates the victory.
Amazing drive from Thieber, and also you see Pentel is quite happy now. We see those emotions finally coming up after 1.5 hours of very intense racing. Guys can finally just enjoy of being done and having done it.
You say enjoy, but I think for some of these drivers, they will now maybe spend the next 30 minutes scrolling through the replay and looking through all the different incidents that they were tangled up in. Here comes some of the trailing cars to the line. Sarah Dove trying to close down Artem Makarov with Simon Shakugo in front of them, 12th, 13th and 14th positions behind Gaio Valero, who worked his way back forward to 11th at the conclusion of this race. Again, do let us know who your driver of the day will be. Gaio Valero maybe has a claim to that given the performance in race 1, the recovery in race 2 after the opening lap shenanigans for him. But Patricia, as we wait for the cars to come to the line, who do you think your pick for driver of the day would be?
Well, I think I'm gonna go with the calm one, the one who stood steady, the one who collected probably the most points today, the one who's done great in the first race. So honestly, I know he's had experience than some of the other drivers, but my word goes to this year. He did an amazing job and he stayed cool, and obviously it all sorted itself out for him.
And so I believe that is all the drivers now officially across the line. We can take a look at the results. And so Alexander Thieber enters 2024 without a team, but surely his phone will be lighting up given the performance that we've seen, consistent for him once again at the front. Artie Simsport and Matthias Pentel are second, and showing that the reverse grid puts you in a great position if race 1 doesn't necessarily go your way. Michael Haflidason third, with Murgim Aloui fourth in the distinct GG entry. Vince Peters, Darwin Romero, Alessio Bender, and Michael Kaibach, Daniel Muth, and John Aylen round out the top 10. Gaio Valero fought back forward to 11th in front of Simon Shakugo, with Artem Makarov, Sarah Dove, and Sophie Aragon through the top 15. Adam Locke close behind, of course, double victory for him in split 2, but some solid points accumulated in this top split. Francesco Newman, and then Mario Velgut, the first car scored, as 1 lap down after he ran into the disqualification limit. Sergi Maturana and then Nicholas Gladish complete the top 20, and then Jesse Albrecht, Spencer Brown, Wanji Lin, Joshua Jane, Norbert Leitner, Nicholas Nolder, and Naz Atadi round out the 27 cars in this top split of competition. Great to look through, of course, 2 fascinating races. We can take a bit of a breath now, Patricia, and then go and talk to some of the drivers. It's pretty frenetic up here in the commentary booth as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. It's always so hard for me to talk while I'm myself very focused on watching the race, because it's always so intense. So much is happening. That's why the time flies by so quickly. It's insane. But yeah, I think most importantly, I hope that the spectators are also having a great time, because to me, I think that's the best Friday night you can have. Just sit down and watch like the most intense racing of the whole week probably, or anything else happening. But yeah, having the best time here. I hope you are as well.
Let's see if we can drag in a couple of those drivers. I think we have Vince Peters standing by, and I think we should probably talk to him first, especially because, Vince, we don't quite understand how you had the wherewithal to recognize that 2 cars were going to fire it up the inside of you in that first race, and to come out of that corner with all 3 cars not showing a scratch. Talk us through what was a very tense first race of the evening. We don't have a copy on you, Vince, right now. Let's see if you can click some buttons, get that mic working.
Oh, yeah. That's got it working.
Now we've got you.
Yeah, Gael was very aggressive from the start. So I just sat back and saved some tires because I saw we could create a gap to P4. So I think that was the smartest thing to do. And at the end, it was just being in the right position at the right time. They had a good run on me, but I could squeeze Gael, I think. And then I had a good outside of T1. And from that point, I basically grabbed the win.
So a good victory in the first race. You start at the back of the second race. You somehow stay out of most of the madness on the opening lap, and you somehow finish up in 5th. You must be pretty chuffed with how this round has gone overall.
Yeah, I think points-wise, it's quite good. The second race was just madness all over, and we lost so much time with all the 4 whites, basically the whole first lap. And that's why I just was too far from the top 3, so maybe next time.
Well, congratulations,
I have a
Vince,
question for him as well.
Go ahead, Patricia.
My question to you is, do you have any strategies for your race? Like, did you plan on anything beforehand? Or did you just go into the race like, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to stay calm and drive quickly? Or did you think beforehand of how you're going to structure it?
I was just hoping for pole or at least the top 3 in qualifying. And yeah, that worked out. But I knew for the long run, for the 25 minutes, the track temp was 50 degrees, I think. So if you just push too much, and I think Gael did, yeah, he just burned his tires. And by the end, I think Nicholas and I had the advantage that way. But still, he's a really good. He's doing best for a reason. So it's not easy to overtake him, let's say.
Hey, I think you showed that you're capable of that level as well, Vince. Congratulations on the great results, and hopefully we'll see you next round.
Cheers, bye.
Cheers.
We'll jump from Vince Peters over to Michael Hafliderson, because we're very curious to get his thoughts on that second race in particular, some of those side-by-side moments. See if we can drag Michael in now and have a quick chat with him. Michael, talk to us about your evening here tonight. Seemed like quite fun for you, although quite tense towards the end.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say a big sorry to Norbert for the first race. I was behind him and totally missed my braking marker, so that's my bad completely. But yeah, second race, starting from the front, I knew from the first race I had the pace to be in the top 5 easily, so I was hoping for top 3, which I got in the end, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed the combo.
Talk to us about tire management, because we were just talking with Vince, and he was saying that he thinks he had saved a little bit of tires. You were battling at the end side by side. How much grip did he really have to be pushing at that stage?
I never felt that the tires really dropped off that dramatically. I always felt like I had them in some sort of window. I felt like they could overheat, and then I had to cool down for maybe 1 lap, but then it was fine again. So for me, it wasn't that bad, and I think that's why I had such strong pace compared to what I had in the first round at Solar.
And now that we've, of course, started a new year, there's been a couple of weeks off. You talk about the slight change in pace. It's not far away from us going for the next round of the championship. Do you feel confident in your speed in this Toyota GR86?
Yeah, I mean, the GR86 is one of my favorite cars on iRacing. It's so slow, and you just have to wheel it like crazy to be fast in it. Really enjoy the car, and yeah, hopefully I can have some pace in the last few rounds. It would be amazing, because I really enjoy this.
Well, Michael, congratulations on a great drive today. Looking forward to seeing you hopefully again for the next round of this NGK NTK Esports Cup.
Thank you very much.
And so I think that is going to wrap up our post-race interviews. Don't think anyone else is standing by. And so, Patricia, we can look forward to the next round of the championship, because I've really enjoyed my time here, and I'm looking forward to maybe watching on with Connery Maddock back alongside yourself for all of the action.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Connor as well again, but I did have a great time with you as well. I'm actually quite surprised about the tire situation. He said he had quite a good window on the tires, even though we heard from Vince that the tire management was quite tough. So I think, like I said, think driving style and practice made such a big difference because some struggling way more than others. But it's also great to hear that the GR86 was one of his favorite cars because it is very technical, and that's good to hear. Anyway, are we already at the end of it?
I think so. We can talk about what's next. We can take a look at the schedule. And of course, just remind everyone that we're going to Imola, and it's only in a couple of weeks, the 2nd of February. You'll be here before you know it. And then we're going to Hockenheim, to Rudskogen, to Alton Park. About 2 weeks between each of our next rounds.
And my 2 favorite tracks are coming up. I love Imola. It's so great. Lots of different kinds of corners, very technical as well. So that will be a super interesting race as well. And then obviously Hockenheimring, my home track, and then Nürburgring, the finale. We're not going to talk about that yet because don't get me excited. And probably my 2 favorites until the finale. So you guys definitely tune in, and we'll all see each other again for 2 more and 4 more great races to come.
Of course, that is all still to come, but for now it's time to say goodbye. Great racing here at Motorland Aragon for round 2 of the NGK Esports Cup for 2024. And don't forget to join us for all of the action moving forward. For the team behind the scenes at RaceSpot, for Patricia alongside myself, Arjuna, Dane Baird behind the scenes helping as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. So long for now. We'll see you here on RaceSpot TV.